Okay, so I just want to talk about The Black Swan. It's a film that I watched on HBO Max, or just Max. Uh, and I have been trying to watch this film for at least 4 days. Why 4 days? Because I just like I would begin to watch it and then something would happen and I would have to focus on reality. And when I'm watching a film, especially if it genuinely calls me and draws me in and captures my attention within the first 5 to 10 minutes, then I'm like, okay, I really want to commit to this and really like give it my full undivided awareness. And so I would try to watch it. Well, actually, the first time that I watched it, it was on mute, and all I had were the subtitles, and it still managed to intrigue me and pique my interest and make me curious about more. Just by reading the subtitles and looking at the emotion and the visuals and the cinematography and what the story was telling so far. And I had only got maybe like 10 minutes and maybe 20, like if that. I really didn't get that far into this story, and then I had to turn it off. So today I finally was able to sit down and eat breakfast. I was kind of in an open environment, so people were kind of like watching my reactions in real time. And they probably could they could only assume that maybe I was watching a film or something, just because you couldn't really, my phone wasn't really visible, and I had my headphones on, so I was kind of like reacting to what was going on, and I could see people looking at me, and I had to remember, like, oh my goodness, I am in public watching this freaking movie, this film, this thriller, which is also like a horror genre mixed with romance and um discovery, and a psychologically stimulating, like everything. It was just everything, and I loved it so much, and my brain was doing so many amazing things, calculating things and seeing things and interpreting, and I just want to like say all of my opinions and feelings and emotions, and my conspiracy theories are gonna come out, okay? And I'm just gonna pretty much peel my mind back so that you can enter my psyche, and just feel and get a visual of what it's like inside of my reality, okay? So ultimately there is this dance. So really, the story that is being told, there are so many stories being told. It's a story within a story within a story. Although I feel like the main theme is this swan. There is this white swan story where she falls in love with a prince, and he ends up falling in love with the wrong woman, and the white swan, she ends up killing herself in the end, committing suicide. And inside of that story, there is the personification of it, which is the ballerina, the dancer, and just the entire organization that is demonstrating this story that's being told by way of dance and music and film. And then it's also a romance, because there's so much the story is also heavily dependent on relationships. There is a mother-child dynamic. There is this sort of reflection, this light and dark, I'm gonna say like surface self and shadow self. That's the best way I could describe it. There is this man-woman dynamic. There is this inner child, mature adult kind of like dynamic going on, and it's so twisted. It's such a twisted story, and honestly, I can say that I loved every single loop, every single turn. It was so thrilling in a way that I feel like I had not felt in such a long time. You know, it felt like a roller coaster ride that was genuinely enjoyable and didn't just feel like you were being thrown around, and you could feel every like bump and, you know, just the aggressiveness and the force. You know, it didn't feel forced. It felt like a genuinely enjoyable, thrilling ride that had me like, whew, you know, like we as human beings, we need that. And because I kind of like don't do roller coasters anymore, I recently have been seeking out other ways to get that same excitement and that same like enthusiasm and thrill and like whew kind of effect. So I seek that in psychological thrillers sometimes, and these like horror movies. It's interesting because on the surface this doesn't seem like a horror film, or like it would be placed in the horror film genre at all, and I think that ultimately it doesn't belong there. It's just that the I think it's the psychological aspect of it all and what our main character is going through psychologically that actually makes it horrifying. It's more of like just observing what someone is going through inside of their own mind, and the effect that has on their reality when they aren't able to really process it or even communicate properly what's going on, and how horrifying it can be when a person can get lost inside of their own psyche. And honestly, I'm going to say the way that I interpreted this film, I interpret it in a way where I feel as though the main character, I believe her name is Nina. I believe so. The main character, okay, who ends up getting like her dreams come true, and she gets to dance the main ballerina. Like she gets to be the swan queen. She gets to play both the black swan, which is sort of like the evil kind of a shadow self, and then the white swan, which is pretty much the foreground, you know, the self that's present on the surface, which I feel like I would describe as the ego. And I feel like her subconscious chewed up into bits and pieces this dance routine and the story, chewed it up, swallowed it, digested it, and manifested a psychological experience that is kind of happening on top of her reality. I feel like she manifested a psychological experience of reality that would allow her to tap into deeper levels of consciousness, and gain access to sensations and hallucinations. I feel like some people would call them, although I feel like they are just like I would describe it as an extrasensory perception. I feel like she was able to tap into alternate realities and extrasensory experiences that allowed for her to experience physical effects without any cause that could be defined or identified in her surroundings or her life. I feel like other than the fact that this story requires for her to tap into her shadow, it requires for her to become her shadow. And I think that because she desired it so bad, and I feel like that's really something that this film brings to the light, that when we continuously impress onto our subconscious the desire to perfect something and really embody and totally and wholeheartedly demonstrate a concept or an idea, I believe that our subconscious will go to any length to make sure that that impression is accepted, and that what it is that we believe about ourselves and our capabilities will become truth. It will become real life. And I think that it just shows that the power of the subconscious mind. I'm not really a fan of calling the subjective mind unconscious, just because I think that it gives a false impression. And I feel like calling the subjective mind unconscious, I feel like misinterprets its functioning, and can give someone the impression that it is idle and does not think or is not conscious, you know what I mean, or is not experiencing consciousness, when I feel like our subjective mind, our subconscious mind, is just as awake and aware and able as our objective mind is. And I feel like in this film, I feel like it showed what happens when an individual's subconscious sort of gains access to the individual's personality in ways that maybe the average human being isn't experiencing. You know, like I feel like she had been able to tap into and gain access to deeper aspects of herself than the average human being was. And I feel like that is a sacrifice of being so passionate about something. And dance, I think that dance, I love the idea of acquiring talents and gifts and skills and abilities just for the sake of becoming a character and playing a role. And I think that it's one of the things that makes me passionate about being an actress, because I feel like it is a way to experience death without the literal physical death of the body. I think that you can experience psychological deaths and it have the same effect as a literal passing, and transition into the afterlife, whatever you want to call it. And I feel like what I'm passionate about is losing the self, losing the mind, in order to experience death in a way that stimulates the senses and allows for the body to experience kind of like a transition and a transformation. I'm trying to explain what it is that I feel in the words that I have. Emotionally, psychically, I have unlimited access to the way that I feel, and I can communicate it energetically. It's just that trying to translate the infinite feelings that I have into words using only the human language, which has its limitations. It can be difficult and something to overcome. Still, I put forth the effort because I feel like I love the idea of like seeing what this particular actress and all of like what an actress has to go through, the sacrifice and the commitment and the diligence and the dedication that it takes for her to practice and put in the effort to literally acquire and develop a skill and a talent so that she can perform and really portray and embody a character in the highest way and the most realistic manner. And I just think it's so powerful to me, and it's so empowering. And honestly, maybe she already is a dancer, you know what I mean? Still, I just think that I love the idea of becoming, and I also love the idea of being able to experience death through your characters, because I think that we as human beings gain so many cells and we are continuously being reborn. And I feel like because we are constantly being born in every single moment, I think that finding ways to also release and sacrifice and let go of all of the cells that no longer serve, I think is like equally as vital and important, and contributes to our mental health and just our healing in general, and our sanity and the balance that we experience in our lives. And I love the idea. I just am really passionate about like having no boundaries when taking on a role, and being willing to do whatever it is that I need to do in order to make sure that my portrayal is the most realistic and the most heartfelt and open and vulnerable and competent. I really think it's about competence. And I think that as an actress, because you are a woman, just by itself, because you are a woman in a male-dominated craft, I feel like, and some people may think differently, I just feel like anything in terms of like career is just male dominated, because I don't think like women naturally, I think, are working bodies. So I feel like when women do pursue careers that I feel like are predominantly like male, that are dominated by men, I feel like it takes so much more sacrifice from her, just to be able to prove that she has a presence. And I think for me, I respect the lengths that an actress goes through in order to truly embody a character, and the willingness that she has to sacrifice herself so that she can gain access to the emotions and the thoughts and the psyche of her character. I think it's so beautiful, and I think that it's a very underrated sacrifice and like job, just in general, just the craft and the art that is acting as a woman, because our bodies give birth and our bodies harbor life. And I feel like when a woman takes the time to really nurture and deliver a character, like to nurture and feed this character from just pure idea all the way until a fully manifested entity, in like within herself, I think that it is so beautiful. And I think that it is a representation of the power and the value of divine feminine energy, and that I respect any woman that loses herself when she is acting or portraying a character, and stepping outside of who she is so that she can give birth to this life, and also to mother this life into its death as well. Because when the process is all over, she has to come back to herself And the truth is that self won't ever be the same. I feel like it changes you completely. And I think that acting is not something to be taken lightly, just because I feel like you do go through a psychological death anytime you choose to take on a character, and then that character at some point in your life dies. And I think that yes, they still live on by way of memory, and maybe you still have access to their consciousness still. I feel like once like the work is done and you have done your part, like you have to come back to yourself. And I think that in many ways you are changed, because you have seen things, you have experienced things, you have felt emotions that genuinely have an effect on the subconscious, and I think that that's something that typically goes over the heads of society, because maybe it isn't talked about as much. I think that we live in a day and age where maybe the focus when it comes to acting as a craft in modern times, I feel like in the 21st century, is more about numbers, and I think it's more about the press. And I think there is so much more attention on the marketing and the advertisement rather than the actual craft itself and the art itself and the sacrifice that is acting. As a human being, you're pretty much like letting go of your control over reality in order to connect to, I want to say, connect to something greater or something deeper, more so something that is invisible. And that, feeling these emotions, the subconscious mind is not differentiating between what is your character's emotions and what are your emotions. To the subconscious, it's all one. So, we on the surface are seeing this duality, and I think that duality doesn't exist below the surface, and that's something that I feel like for me is important to bring awareness to, because it goes beyond just acting. I think we as human beings are very imaginative, and we go through things throughout our day to day where we experience emotions, and we are vulnerable, and we experience empathy, and we go through a lot of things that maybe aren't conscious choices. Still, it has an effect on our subconscious, and it has an effect on our lives. And I think that acting is really a space to really bring awareness to the power that we have as individuals who are experiencing something multidimensional. We aren't just experiencing one plane of existence, we're experiencing many. And I think that it's just being aware of your power and all of the ways that what it is that you consume and what it is that you feel, even if it's not your own emotions, how that can have an impact on your reality and how it can manifest things for you, and experiences for you. Because I feel like the truth is, once you choose to become a character as an actor or an actress, I feel like those emotions that you feel and the memories that you create while you are portraying that character become a part of your life. They become a part of your story to the subjective mind. I feel like to the universe. I feel like that is a part of what you are manifesting in your reality. And I think that that's something that, again, bringing awareness to the fact that we are always manifesting, even when we aren't consciously choosing to observe something or be something or do something or feel something, that we are always manifesting. And I think that you can definitely manifest experiences in your reality that are based on memories that you have while portraying a character. And simply because you're subconscious, I think if you aren't aware and awake enough to the functioning of your mind, I think that it can bleed over, and I feel like it can make your reality seem completely out of your control, which I think is why many actors and celebrities maybe end up experiencing a really, really dark aspects of fame and really, really dark aspects of themselves on this like global platform, simply because I feel like when you take on a character that has a lot of psychological trauma and has been through abuse and like experiences really expansive and deep emotions, you are manifesting that, you know what I mean? And I feel like you can simultaneously bring into your reality a lot of experiences that are simply because you were truthful about what you felt while being someone else, which is a beautiful thing. Still, it can be very dangerous if done without proper realization of the value and the power of being truthful in your art, being truthful in your work. You know, it's really deep, and it is very spiritual to me. I believe that it is. I feel like even if spirituality isn't something that you practice, it's still, I think that art is a very spiritual entity in general, because it is energy, it is emotion, it is energy in motion, and we are, as human beings, always putting energy into motion at every given moment. Just because we are thinking, we are breathing, we're communicating, we exist simply. And I feel like this Black Swan film just really took a humongous, like 360 like roundabout around my entire concept of acting and my belief in it and what it is that I understand it to be, because I also have this thing where even if I don't portray a character, I feel like I am so sensitive to my psychic abilities and my gifts and my talents that I can manifest, I feel like, memories of portraying a character just because I empathized with the actress while observing a film, if that makes sense. And it does have an effect on me just because I feel like I'm really sensitive in that way, whereas I feel like if I'm looking at a script or, you know, I'm looking at a screenplay, I allow myself to be vulnerable enough to be able to see myself as the character always. And I think that I naturally kind of begin to process the feelings of my character and the emotions of my character, and I feel like it becomes one, and there is no boundary there is no limitation, I feel like, but like no limits between the actress within me and the characters that we portray, I feel like, and I don't really know if I don't believe that there should be a boundary, just because there isn't one there naturally. It's just something that I have to be hyper aware of, just because I can easily internalize someone else's experience just because I watched the film, and it has an effect on me psychologically as if I had just like once the film is over, it has an effect on me as if I just finished portraying this character. Hi.
Oh gosh, hi.
How are you?
How are you? Oh, it's just you?
Yeah, it's just me.
Oh.
They went downstairs to a restaurant or something.
Oh.